Oh, perfect. Thank you.
Perfect.
Really good. Yeah.
Good
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so we have actually met before. We met at the Britannia Hotel in Manchester in, I think, 1983.
Oh, my
believe it
God.
or not.
Wow.
I'm sure you remember it well.
Well, I remember 1983, but yeah, that's about as far as it goes. But no, it's I was actually just in England. I'm in Boston now, and I literally just got in last night. I spent 10 days. We had a little break, so that was kind of cool. And yeah, in Boston Common, out the window there.
So, yeah, quite a few there as well. Nice.
Yeah.
And you're about to go back on tour. That must be an exciting prospect at this time, like after the couple of years we've had.
It is. The first 18 shows were phenomenal. It was just like great. And again, people saying, well, what's it like this tour? And I said, well, it's the culmination of everything you want when you first pick a guitar up. Going out on stage in a stadium, just seeing it packed, and it's just awesome, and getting to do that. So yeah, we've kind of reached that stage, and it's just really cool, especially with all the other stuff. Brand new album out, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame thing, just everything. Both two of our albums gone diamond, and yeah, it's just a constantly, moving into a different phase, if you like. Like Queen did or the Stones did, and we kind of noticed that, and it just feels really wonderful because that's what you plan when you first start.
Absolutely. So speaking of Diamond Star Halos, the reviews for this album are amazing. Like, does it surprise you at this point that you're still getting these incredible reviews?
It does, because of we've done albums that we thought were really good, but I think this one's better actually. I think there's just the integrity that the band's got, because we don't really have to do a new album. But again, going back to the Stones, they always put new music out, and it's something we always thought was important. And it's the most inspired record we've done since Hysteria. I think it's really got just a whole different vibe about it, because there was, like I said, we didn't have to do it, and most of it was just me and Joe sending ideas. So the integrity's there. It's like all done for the right reasons, for the getting excited about writing songs again, getting excited the style of songs, and the era that we got introduced into music, which was when I was 14, like 1972, 73. Bowie, T-Rex, and all of that, along with Zeppelin and Purple and all the other stuff that was at the same time. So when you're 14, you're a sponge, and it was, for us, it was like just incredible. So I think we kind of ended up celebrating that, and that's really why we called it Diamond Star Halos, because it's a line out of a T-Rex song, hubcap Diamond Star Halos. And like I said, me and Joe would refer to that moment in time for us in our lives as that. So when I suggested the name, everyone was like, oh yeah, absolutely, it's obvious. Yeah.
So a lot of bands have tried to copy Def Leppard over the years, but I don't think anybody sounds like Def Leppard. Would you agree?
Absolutely. You hear elements of it, but we again, we learned all of a lot of our recording techniques from Mutt Lange, songwriting. What's cool, what's a guitar solo, you should be able to hum it. If it's not, it kind of can conflict and get in the way of the vocal and all those things. And he taught us how to sing, taught us how to play guitar properly, and taught us how to write cool songs. So I think that's the big difference. We had this guy who's a musical genius, writing and recording alongside us. So that's one of the big reasons I think that we benefited from it and sound fairly unique. And the whole idea initially was like crossing Queen and AC/DC and making a kind of a collage of that, if you like.
I've been a Def Leppard fan since before you were even in the band.
Really? Yeah.
And it was really interesting to see how quickly you ascended. Like, it was only 3 years from the first album to Pyromania. Pyromania took you into the arenas, which at that point, not that many bands were playing arenas back in 83.
Yeah.
And then obviously you went deep into Hysteria, literally.
Yeah.
And then that album, over 20 million albums in 1987. So success came, not instantly, but fairly quick for a band back in the 80s. Was success at that point all you dreamed it to be?
It was a lot more, actually. I remember thinking success would have been, I remember seeing Uriah Heep at the East Ham Granada in London, and Peter Frampton was opening up. It was before Frampton Comes Alive, but he was doing that set, and it was about, I don't know what, 2,000 people max. It's a cinema, and I thought, oh God, this is what making it is like. And so I had this image of that, and you obviously want it to be bigger than that, and it went way above and beyond, actually, and especially when we started touring the States and the record sales started coming. And then obviously with MTV, which was really instrumental in our success, because it was, we wasn't just a regular rock band. We sounded a bit different. It was a pop rock hybrid, and we looked different. It was closer looking to Duran Duran than we were to, say, Iron Maiden. So it was a hybrid, and I think that all those hybrid things really helped it, and obviously you had a visual with the MTV thing, so it pushed it into an area that you wouldn't have seen before. Rock bands or albums in general would sell about 2 to 5 million, but this thing, with Pyromania, it kicked off, and it ended up doing 10 or 11 million in the States. And while we were doing it, it was just above and beyond. It was like pinch your wrist time. It's kind of, but then, when we finished it and we went back to Europe, it was back to playing clubs. So that definitely kept you humble. It's like, oh, okay, don't get too full of yourself, because this is, everything is temporary, or so no, that was one of the things we learned from it, and continue to learn. It's like you're only as good as the perception is. Doesn't matter if your album's great or whatever, you got to be perceived that way for whatever reasons.
And obviously Hysteria is still your biggest selling album so far. I have a copy here.
There you go.
Look, you signed it.
Fantastic. Oh, brilliant. Fantastic. That's great. Wow.
So,
and anniversary, right? This week as well, right? It's 35 years apparently.
Yeah. I think yesterday was 35 years.
Wow.
Are you a nostalgic person? Do you look back often?
We don't really get the time, but we often look back, and I often think back. I remember all of that. I remember recording it constantly. I remember the guitars I used, the studio, the room that we were in, all of those things. And so, yeah, you kind of constantly think about that, but not per se, are we going to celebrate it with a birthday, giddy up and woohoo and all of that stuff? Not so much that, but I think it's a constant. And we have so many anniversaries keep coming up, and people have to, because you forget. I forgot, and someone said, oh, it's been 40 years since you've been in the band, and it's like, oh wow. And that was just a few weeks ago as well. So yeah, it's interesting, but there's always so much to do. We're constantly busy, and I think it's great to be able to do that. And it's nice being reminded, because it's like, wow, there's all these kind of milestones of your life, they tick by. It's pretty cool.
And I was looking earlier at the list of artists that have sold the most albums in history.
Yeah.
And you might be happy to know that you're above David Bowie and you're above Stevie Wonder and the Beach Boys.
Wow.
It's incredible, really, isn't it? When you think about it.
It really is. It really is. And wow. And I didn't know that. So yeah.
Well, I think you're going to stay above them.
Yeah, hopefully. Yeah. Well, we're out there on tour, so that always helps as well. But yeah, that's good news.
So being on tour and with this catalog that you have and so many hits, it must just get harder and harder to come up with a set list that works. How do you do that?
We constantly change it. Some things absolutely don't work, and they don't work this year. They don't work in this context. So you have to be aware of that. And then you have this production, which again we're really excited about. And again, they have to work in the confines of that. So you have certain parameters and certain songs you must do, and ones that you kind of come and go as you. So you want to put new songs in as well, but you have to be careful. You can't do too many new songs, because people go, oh, I don't know this. I just want to pour some sugar on me and photograph. So yeah, you kind of constantly have to be aware of that.
but you as a band must be excited to play the new material. So how do you manage to slot it in where it works with the classics, I guess?
Sonically and kind of everything else, they tend to work really well with the old stuff. So we're really lucky. They're not like kind of radically different in that sense. You know, you kind of, you can get away with that. It's just a matter of getting them past that thing where people go, they're acceptable. And you can do that with production. We've done that before, you know, with a brand new song. If you do it first with lots of flashing lights and lasers and God knows what, you kind of get away with it because people are just looking at the spectacle and accepting that you're doing a new song. But you know, again, back to the Stones, you know, when they do a new song or Keith sings, everyone goes out to the bar or buys T-shirts, and you actually see that. And so that doesn't change. That still happens a bit, and then you have to just try and keep them in their seats. I mean, it's not a bad thing that they do that, but it's just you do notice it.
And after 40 years in Def Leppard, how do you keep it exciting for you every time you go on stage? This is a big tour that you're doing, by the way, like over 1 million tickets sold, right?
Yeah. It's
Incredible.
exciting. I mean, just by the virtue of the fact that you just said we sold 1 million tickets, it's really exciting. Then you walk out on a stage and it's a packed stadium. You go, wow, that looks great. That's beyond what I imagined. You know, that's beyond East Ham Granada. It's just got this element to it, and the playing gets better all the time. You know, my guitar playing's better than it was last time we went out on tour, and the singing. Actually, I always struggle with that. We have to rehearse, and I'm constantly doing warm-ups. We all do, actually. Joe does about 3 hours a day of vocal warm-ups, and we do all our own vocals. It's not like a sample or anything like that. So it kind of there's a level of excellence that you have to attain or keep the bar. And when you do, you find that you get really confident about what you're doing. So it's a joy, honestly. It's like it's a dream come true, and we get to do that every night, and it never gets old. You know, people go, well, doesn't it get old? It's like, no. I mean, if you could see what I see and hear what I'm singing, it shocks me that me, Viv, and Sav and Joe harmonize like this. Sometimes I hear it in my in-ear monitors, and I'm going, this sounds totally fake. This doesn't sound, but it's us. It's because we've rehearsed it and we sing all the time. So it's a joy. So you know, it just gets better and better and better.
And what about the next generation of bands? Are you somebody that listens to new music? Who are you going to pass the baton to?
I don't know. I'm still waiting. Actually, I'm. You know, you hear a lot of stuff out there, but there's it's few and far between. You know, there's so much. There's a problem, I think, and I think that it's the TikToky YouTube crowd. You know, it's like when bands or artists would write before, it would be because they wanted to be an artist and want to express themselves and write songs and share them and go, wow, check this out, as opposed to, wow, look at me, please love me. And that's I don't want to sound like an old dude, but that's what I notice. And I'm still waiting for someone like Prince or Zeppelin or something that has a bit more something to it. You know, there's very little stuff. Metallica's great when you see them. There's a big difference. Guns N' Roses are awesome. You know, I don't see that anymore. I don't see that star power. I don't see that kind of thing. And so that's what I'm waiting for. There hasn't been any of that. Nirvana was obviously Foo Fighters. It's a offshoot of Nirvana to a way. And I love the Foo Fighters. I think they're great. But when Nirvana came out, I was like, whoa, this is amazing. The Sex Pistols, amazing. But I'm just waiting. It's still waiting.
And you're mentioning bands that kind of changed the musical landscape completely.
Yeah.
And I think you guys did that as well. So yeah, there is a worry that like, who is the next festival headliner when you're playing like Download or something, you know, Donington Park, those kind of festivals. Yeah. Who's going to be there in a few years?
Like I said, I'm still waiting, and you know that question comes up quite a bit. And they go, "Oh, what about this?" And I don't hear anything. I hear derivative stuff and stuff that's not inspired. So yeah, you want to get inspired, and it's still waiting. So in every genre of music, you know, in hip hop, same deal. It's like You're waiting to hear, or R&B. It's like you listen to the old R&B, you listen to Stevie Wonder, you listen to Marvin Gaye and stuff like that. Nothing is like that anymore, and that kind of soul and vibe and everything. So yeah, I think we've kind of comfortably got into something else that doesn't really, demand that kind of excellence. Yeah. And that kind of, it's rare that kind of talent comes along, and songwriters and the whole deal. Yes, it's still waiting.
So my last question, with the Def Leppard catalog, everybody knows the hits. You could release a greatest hits album every Christmas and people would buy it. But what's a deep cut? What's a deep Def Leppard cut that you're really proud of, that you think people should listen to more?
Paper Sun off of Euphoria. Love that. It's great. It's pretty deep, and it ticks every box. It's got this really cool middle section, a bit like Gods of War or something like that. And and we wrote the song. We were in Ireland, and someone a terrorist thing was being set up, and it went wrong, and a van blew up and just killed a bunch of people. So that's really what the song was about, and it was in the late 90s, and so we were recording the song, and so it's pretty deep and it's dark, and the song musically and sonically reflects that kind of mood. And again, it's rare that you get stuff. I mean, that's what an artist does all the time, but for us, because we don't usually do that kind of stuff, we wrote the song, and it kind of it reflected the mood of what just gone down.
Thank you very much for your time. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. Good luck with the rest of these amazing dates that you're doing.
Thank you.
All right.
Take care.